Welcome to the TruGolf Academy. You've joined me, Jon Watts, today in my swing studio, and today's video is going to stop your club getting cross-lined at the top of the backswing. It's going to give you a really simple exercise to stop that move, which is really going to help your downswing get on plane. Stay tuned to find out more. As mentioned, today's video is all going to be about stopping the club getting cross-lined at the top of the backswing. So let me jump into explaining what that means first of all for any of you that are unsure. So if we were getting the club cross-lined, what we're seeing at the top of the backswing is the club, for me as a right-handed golfer, pointing to the right of the target. We want the club at the top of the backswing. If we got the club parallel to the ground, so if we made it what we'd class as a full swing, we'd want the club pointing parallel to our target line or slightly laid off, which means it's pointing more to the left, a little bit more behind me towards this back wall. It gets a lot of people into problems when they get this cross-line position with the club pointing more out to the right of the target. What we see when people get into this position is often a very cupped lead wrist, so we see in this position. Now there have been some good players there who make a great move at the start of the downswing to really change that. So I'm not suggesting you can't play from a cross-line position. There have been and are some very good golfers who manage it, but they have to rely, well, a lot on repetition. They've hit thousands and thousands, if not millions of golf balls, repeating and making a compensatory move to go from this cross-line cupped lead wrist position to really flatten out and get that lead wrist more into flexion here rather than in extension. So you can do it, but it relies, as I said, more on timing. What I often see when golfers get into a cross-line position at the top is they will make a very out to win over the top movement. Or what we see with a lot of the better players who do it is they get their arms out, the club behind them, and they actually struggle from there because the club gets so far behind their hands, they tend to hit blocks and hooks. I do like to see the arms move a little bit away from the body to allow the club to shallow, but I'm talking about an excessive movement where the club tends to drop too far behind the player and they feel in a very trapped position, generally with an open club face. So we tend to see their bodies stop and a lot of hand action to try and square the club face. So I get a lot of players getting into faults from getting that club in this cross-line position. My preference would be much more to see the club parallel to the target line or slightly laid off, so pointing more at the wall behind me from there, because I don't need to actually reroute the club as much. I don't need to change my wrist angle as much. It's much easier on the downswing to swing on plane with a good club face position. The worst thing we can do on the downswing is have the club face wide open because it will stop our body. Our body will have to stall to really try and flip with the hands and arms. So we really don't want that club dropping excessively behind us and getting way open because it relies a lot on hand action. So I've got a very simple drill for you if this is a fault of yours that will really work on the whole of the backswing plane. So what we're going to use is a couple of tour sticks. We're going to have one, excuse me, which is going to represent the ball to target line. I'm actually going to put it just outside the ball to target line, just so I can keep the canes there when I go ahead and hit. And then I'm going to have one representing my body line, which is going to be parallel left. So my body line is going to be more this green tour stick on the floor, whereas my club, my ball to target line is represented more by that red cane. And then with another tour stick, you're either going to hold it up the side of the club or tape it to the club, or I've got some thinner ones here will actually push into the end of the grip. Okay, so I've got some sticking out there. We could even just use a T-peg in the end of the grip. But what we're trying to do at the top of the backswing is make sure this cane is pointing out in front of me rather than I can't see it's hidden behind me. So I'm trying to get this cane to point behind me. The reason I'm putting these tour sticks down is we can actually work on the whole backswing movement as one. So in the takeaway position, in this first move, just a first parallel, I'd want the cane that's up the side of the club in contact with your lead side. By halfway back, and I've done a video on this before called Perfect Plane, I want the end of the club grip here, this cane, pointing somewhere between my ball to target line and my feet line, ideally slightly nearer my ball to target line, so we wouldn't want the club too steep or too flat here. So we can work on the takeaway move, connection with that in contact with my lead side. Halfway back plane, getting this pointing somewhere between my toe line and my ball to target line, ideally slightly nearer my ball to target line. And then at the top of the backswing, I can see that this cane is pointing in front of me, not behind me here. So I'm stopping the club getting cross lines. So I'd rehearse that movement a few times and actually then go ahead and make some slow pace swings trying to do it, or maybe stopping at the different positions before putting it into a full move. With the cane, you can go ahead and obviously hit shots from here. Inadvertently, not that this video is about this, it will also work on this connection on the way through, getting my body rotating, not stalling. Let me click on the keyboard so you guys can see the ball flight, and I'll just go ahead, first of all, just trying to do a slower pace one. So this isn't going to get out to that green I've put out there, but let me see if I can just go through those motions. Take away, halfway back, top of the backswing it pointing in front of me, exactly what I want to see, and it makes it so much easier on the downswing, very little change of direction rerouting needed. That feels really solid. Let me just go ahead and do a nice slow one. So I wouldn't worry too much about the ball flight there or the distance. I'm just hitting a 130 yards 7-iron. So just take the pace off it first of all. Good numbers, just the face a little bit open. Let me go ahead and see if I can just put a little bit more speed into it now, but just still working on stopping this club getting cross-lined at the top of the backswing that, as I said, would look something more like this, where the cane is pointing behind me. I want it pointing in front of me. Let me go ahead and hit one. There we go. So with a little bit more rotational speed on the way through, I was able to square that club face. Might go in. Oh, I'm going to stop on that one. That was close. From 170 yards out, it hit 172. I'm pretty happy with that. Really good numbers. Very, very minimal swing path. Good angle of attack. Very happy with the data I got on that one. But what you'll have seen as well from there is that the club was in a great position at the top. I had a flat left wrist. I had the club slightly laid off. I had the cane pointing in front of me, so I wasn't getting this cross-line position. As I said, this has actually ended up as a bit of a multi-use exercise where you could work on takeaway, halfway back, and the top of the backswing. But of course, if we get these first positions correct, it's much easier to get this position at the top of the backswing correct also. If you did enjoy the content video, if it has helped you, make sure you post some comments below. Let me know how you got on with it. As I said, do subscribe to the channel. It is for free, and there's new content every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5:30. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.